Hey everybody, welcome back to the Serving Pleasure Podcast.
Exotic Erotic.
With your hosts,
Wesley Corpola.
and Bailey Schultz.
Orientalism is a way of seeing that imagines, emphasizes, exaggerates, and distorts differences of African, Arab, and East Asian peoples and cultures as compared to that of the West.
It often involves seeing cultures as exotic, over-sexualized, backwards, uncivilized, and at times, dangerous.
Hello, everyone.
Hey!
Welcome to Serving Pleasure Podcast,
Exotic Erotic.
Episode 2.
Named, The Tide.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, I wonder what this episode's going to be about. What a vague title. It could be about anything.
It's as vague as betrayal.
Yeah, but I mean, betrayal, you know that someone's going to be betrayed. And the tide, you have no idea what this is going to mean. Man, this episode is just going to be full of surprises. Wow.
I can't wait.
Because we all know that episode 1 was all about betrayals.
Yeah.
So this one's going to be all about Tide.
Some Tide.
It's just going to be Tide product placement.
Yeah, they are sponsoring this episode, but that's not why it's called Tide. That was just a coincidence that happened afterwards.
Oh, wow. Well, we got a lot of great feedback on episode 1.
Yeah, lots of feedback.
Tons. We got over 50 views of our first podcast. Don't know if everyone listened all the way through.
No, and I'm...
No way of knowing.
But I do know that my mom was 30 of those listens, so...
Oh. Wow. Yeah, my mom was 0 of those listens.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It doesn't matter. Because she doesn't even know that I am talking about her right now in this episode.
And now she never will.
She never will. She'll never listen to this. Alright, so we're going on to episode 2. We just read the prologue and chapter 1 of Captured by a Sheikh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so if you haven't listened to that one yet, do, because...
What
are you doing?
It's setting it's setting everything up, we presume.
What are you doing? Just watch them in order.
They are chronological. Okay, so we'll just start reading chapter 2. Any predictions before we go into it?
Well, if you recall, the baby was captured by the
Baby
Sheikh.
Ben.
Baby Ben captured
boy
by
Ben.
the Sheikh at the end of chapter 1. So my prediction for chapter 2 is that Holly Rivers is going to be in quick pursuit of Big Baby Ben, and then sparks will fly when she meets the Sheikh.
I'm going to predict the exact opposite.
She does not
That
change.
she's going to be very hands off. She's going to be like, wow, I have a lot of free time now.
Yeah, okay.
Or we're just not going to explore that character at all.
Holly?
Yeah, she's just not going to be in this chapter.
That's possible. I mean, who knows?
Let's read
Only
on.
Jacqueline.
Only Jacqueline. Okay, chapter 2. The Sheikh had thought himself prepared for any development, but he had not anticipated that this woman would throw herself into the car through its half-open rear door when it was already beginning to move.
Was that at the end of chapter 1, or are they just throwing us into the mix?
No, so the end of chapter 1 ended with, they turned to flee. With a sob, Holly leaped after them. She literally leaped after
into
them.
the car!
By leaping into the car. What the hell? Zahad. Who's Zahad again?
He was the one with the voice.
Push her out! Cried Zahad, who had thrust the baby into a basket on the floor and was stepping on the gas. Close the door! The veil and attached circlet of flowers fell to the pavement as the woman clutched at Sharif.
Give me my baby! Give him back!
Who's reading this? Oh.
We will not harm him.
Didn't she realize who they must be?
Zahad, stop and let me remove her.
No!
The woman held fast to Sharif's arm.
I won't leave him!
You must close the door, said his aide. We are attracting attention and I cannot drive properly.
As a veteran of many battles, the Sheikh would not hesitate to attack a foe. Ooh. He saw no justification, however, for shoving Holly Rivers from a moving car. Instead, he yanked her onto the seat beside him, reached past her, and slammed the door. Immediately, his cousin whipped onto a street to their right. He swerved again, setting a complicated course in case of pursuit. As the woman beside him straightened herself, Sharif got a better look at her face. The amber eyes were wide with alarm, and the disheveled red hair tumbled around her shoulders as if she had newly arisen from bed. A stunning woman. In spite of himself, he could not help wishing she were his. Ooh! Ooh! Perhaps he had been unfair. In his anger, Sharif realized he had not considered how strong the surrogate's attachment to the infant might be. Under other circumstances, such mother love would be admirable.
We do not intend to harm you,
he said.
We can release you here if you like.
The woman ignored the offer.
What do you want? A ransom?
Her voice trembled.
I don't have any money, but my fiancé does.
You think we are kidnappers?
She had no sense at all.
You insult us! In a sense, you must admit, we are kidnappers.
You exaggerate, Sharif returned.
It is a point of fact,
his cousin replied, and snapped the sedan around another corner so abruptly that the surrogate fell onto the Sheikh's lap. Ooh! Now they're just gonna started having sex.
Right in the backseat.
All it took was her falling in his lap and... It had been a long time since Sharif held a woman in his arms. Perhaps this long abstinence explained why he found himself so keenly aware of every soft curve pressed against his body, of the pulse of Holly's throat, and the sound of her breathing, and the light, sweet scent of her. That's a poorly written sentence, because there's no verb in that sentence at all.
Oh, yeah.
It's just a list. That's not a sentence.
English major.
It's not a sentence. He reminded himself that this woman had cheated him, and still posed a threat to his people's future, and to his right to share his son's life.
Let me go!
I'm not restraining you,
Sharif replied. Scrambling onto the seat, she said,
Of course you're restraining me. You're holding my child hostage.
Hostage? He raised an eyebrow. You should not be surprised that I expect you to make good on your bargain.
What bargain?
She scooted as far from him as the space allowed.
No bargain gives you the right to assault me at my wedding and snatch Ben. Where have you put him?
The baby is in a basket on the floor beside me,
Zahad said.
He's smiling. I think you'll like to drive fast when he grows up.
Oh my god. He should be in a car seat,
Holly said.
It's the law.
Her outrage startled a chuckle from Sharif. The woman certainly had spirit.
And you have observed that we are great devotees of the law?
What sass.
Yeah.
Man, this banter is great.
The tension's building.
This is what Jacqueline is best at. From her tightened fists, he got the impression she would like to teach him respect. For the law and for a few other things as well. What a splendid bride she would make for a desert warrior. But not for him. As Zahad slowed, the Sheikh saw that they had reached a broad thoroughfare. Without stopping for the red light, he turned right and accelerated ahead of a bus. Holly flinched.
You're going to get us killed. There's a reason why you're supposed to stop for red lights, even if you don't care about the law.
As a point of fact, we do care about the law, said Sharif, and about civil contracts. It is unfortunate your concern does not extend to those.
Contracts?
She blinked at him.
What are you talking about?
Some of the fright evaporated from her bunched muscles.
Does Jazz owe you money?
Who is Jazz?
He asked.
My sister.
He remembered the stocky woman at the church.
I know nothing of your sister.
The woman swallowed.
You haven't hurt her?
This conversation made no sense. That is not my comment. That is in the book.
That's Jacqueline's comment.
Although it is a mutual
valid.
thought.
It's
a
valid.
mutual thought.
I would have said it had to do that.
This conversation made no sense. The sister had not even come outside, so how could he have hurt her?
Of course not.
Then you're not in any real trouble yet. Just give me the baby and let us go.
Tears glittered in Holly's eyes. With her full lips parted, she looked vulnerable and very desirable.
Ugh.
She was a fool if she believed he would part with his son because of a woman's tears.
You are wasting your breath.
Get down! Shouted Zahad, and the car veered. Without waiting for an explanation, the Sheikh grabbed Holly and flattened them both on the seat. The left-hand passenger window exploded!
What? Baby Ben! Wait, left. Wait, left.
The left-hand passenger window. So the driver's window?
So not the passenger window? Or it must be the back.
The back
left.
passenger?
Yeah, back left.
A car window exploded. Bits of glass sprayed across the exposed skin of Sharif's neck.
The boy, he demanded. Is he hurt? He's fine,
his cousin said.
He's smiling. Someone's shooting at us?
Judging by the pitch of her voice, Holly Rivers teetered on the edge of hysteria. Oh, what a woman, right?
Women.
Hysteria. He doubted the police would be so reckless. With a woman and child in the car?
Perhaps this is how your groom thinks to reclaim you.
Tever wouldn't do that.
I did say Trevor in this. We have not come across a point where it says Tever.
I'm making it. I'm forcing it.
I agree. It is not him.
Zahad sped through traffic.
The attorney drives a new Cadillac. We are being chased by an old sedan with dark windows. It seems my enemies have tracked us,
Sharif muttered.
What enemies?
Holly was shaking.
Who are you guys anyway?
It was an odd question for a woman who had agreed of her own free will to bear his child.
We will discuss this later, said Sharif. By then, I think the answer will come to you.
A series of furious zigzags climaxed in a swift ascent and rapid acceleration. They had entered the freeway. Zahad checked his rearview mirror.
Our pursuers are dropping back. There's a highway patrol car. They've turned back.
Cautiously, Sharif helped Holly sit up.
How is the baby now? Sleeping,
said his cousin. A moment later, he discovered that he should not have taken his attention from the woman. The combination of a shattered window and an approaching highway patrol car proved irresistible.
Help!
She screamed, leaning out.
I've been kidnapped!
The wind tore away her words. From his pocket, Sharif pulled a dampened cloth. Pulled a dampened cloth that Zahad had provided for such an emergency. Clamping it over the woman's face, he hauled her back into the car. She struggled briefly, then sagged. I liked how he just had that ready.
I don't know, maybe that we might use... You think we'll use chloroform at some
I think we
point?
should have a chloroform cloth.
I know we're dealing with a baby. And then it will probably kill it if we use chloroform. But
just in case.
Better safe than sorry.
Better safe with a dead baby than sorry with a loud one.
When he was certain she slept,
That's
not
an
sleeping.
interesting word choice.
Oh, Jacqueline. Sharif removed the cloth. Although his cousin had promised the dose was not harmful, he was relieved to hear her steady if shallow breathing. A check of the patrol car showed that it had surged ahead in the fast lane, paying them no attention.
I will pull over at the next exit, Zahad said. We must leave her. Lying by the road unconscious?
The Sheikh shook his head.
Not unless we can find a hospital. So you will walk in there and say, Excuse me, please take this woman goodbye?
Oh, Zahad, it's a real
What a
sass.
trickster.
His cousin grimaced in the rearview mirror.
We have problems, my friend, and we do not need to add to them.
He's got that right.
We have no problems that will not be solved by flying home,
Sharif said. His cousin passed a slow-moving panel truck.
Think, my friend. Naaman's surviving zealots are not stupid. They found us near church. That means perhaps they can find us again.
Reluctantly, Sharif conceded the point.
They must have learned of Miss Rivers' marriage, as we did, so they know about her, and therefore about my son. Someone has been tracking our comings and goings, his aide said. Possibly an employee of the airlines or the airport in Al-Qadar. They must have tracked me on my last visit here. Then they also know of our return reservations. Sharif took his head, impatient with these obstacles. So we simply travel in a circle. Fly from Los Angeles to, say, London, then to Riyadh.
Zahad grimaced. Everyone's grimacing in this car. They all know how to grimace.
I advise that we do our homework first. We have no idea how many of them there are or how well placed. We need more information before we dare to appear in public.
I wish our listeners could see the face you make while you do it.
I was grimacing. I was grimacing. Sharif started to argue, but he knew his cousin was right. They were stuck here, at least for a while. Another thought hit him.
Then we must keep Miss Rivers in our custody until we leave. Otherwise, she would give the police too much information. Unfortunately, you are right.
Zahad punched the radio controls.
Let us see if we have yet made the news reports.
As he listened to sports headlines, Holly snuggled against Sharif's shoulder. I feel like they're on the wrong, She's unconscious. If she's knocked out by chloroform, she wouldn't be like...
She's not sleeping, and she's not snuggling. We're lucky she's breathing.
She is unconscious, and she is most likely just fallen onto his shoulder.
Snuggling.
And Sharif is just, oh, she's snuggling. The scent of flowers clung to her, along with a trace of baby powder. She seemed less a woman than a nymph, dousing a cloud of red hair. A newscaster's voice broke through the Sheikh's thoughts. Police in Harborview say a bride has been kidnapped moments before her wedding. This happened less than 15 minutes ago outside the First Community Harborview Church.
They are quick with their news,
Zahad observed.
The police, no doubt, want the public to watch for us,
Sharif said. The woman whose identity is being withheld has collar-length auburn hair and is wearing an ivory wedding gown, said the announcer. A witness reported seeing her forced into a tan car driven by two men with dark hair and short beards. We'll keep you posted as this story develops.
That person changed as they were speaking. They transformed.
They were morphing. And yet none of them will comment on that. That was an actor's choice.
Oh.
That was a creative decision on my part. When a commercial came on, Zahad smacked the steering wheel. What witness? I saw no one. Americans are too nosy. Or maybe they're just observant of the fact of when people leap into car windows and scream, "My baby!" Usually that'll turn a few heads. Too nosy. We made a spectacle of ourselves, as I recall, the Sheikh said. Well, we will need to change our appearance as soon as we reach the safe house. Better so. Zahad drove for a time in silence. Thank God.
Yeah.
Sharif wondered if, once Holly awoke, he could persuade her to admit that he was entitled to his son. Perhaps in exchange for her immediate release, she would help them settle the matter with the police. Then he could focus on the would-be assassins, and on forgetting a clear-eyed woman with fiery hair and flower-scented skin.
Who, me?
She's still asleep. Don't make the...
I'm ad-libbing! She's sleep-talking.
On the radio, the announcer returned. Here's an update on that kidnapping of a bride in Harborview. Apparently her 3-month-old nephew was also abducted. Police are already investigating the earlier disappearance of the child's mother. A cold chill swept over Sharif. Holly Jeanette Rivers wasn't the mother of his child. He had taken the wrong woman.
Da, da, da.
Holly's head felt as if someone had stuffed it with wool, and her wrists chafed. Through the thin mattress, springs and crossbars dug into her back. Eek.
It's certainly not a Serta.
We're not orthopedic, right?
Our second sponsor for the day.
Captured by Sheikh, brought to you by
Serta Betting. And Tide to Go.
Tide to Go stick.
Yeah.
She struggled to connect the scattered images in her brain. Alice in the Flowers, Trevor giving her the familiar lopsided grin. The church courtyard with clouds gathering overhead. A man stood in the alley, his hands thrust in pockets set in the front of his sweatshirt. Despite his jeans and baseball cap, his beard and his intensity made him seem foreign.
Okay. Okay.
Ollie needs to settle down on the profiling.
On, like, the guesswork here.
It looks like a foreigner to me. She's supposed to be the protagonist.
Yeah, well, you know, who knows who's supposed to be reading this book.
And then, a madly swerving car, and the man holding her. The hardness of his body had imprinted itself on her memory. In his grip, she felt a reluctant stirring of something she didn't want to name. Something she'd never felt for Trevor.
Oh, God.
Why? How is she already feeling something for this guy?
Because he's foreign.
And he's wearing a baseball cap.
And his body's all hard.
His hard body. That's all it takes.
That's true.
Trevor is too white and squishy.
He's all squishy and soft. That's the noise his body makes.
Then had come the shock of being yanked onto the seat. Had she hit her head? Had she been shot? Anguished, she tried to force herself awake, but her eyelids stuck. She felt the bite of winter air, tinged with waves of warmth and laced with the aroma of burning wood.
Wait, what time of year? Was it winter this whole time?
Yeah, but it's in like Los Angeles, so I can't believe it's...
Okay.
Actually, we don't know what city it's in.
That's true, but it is by the ocean.
Yeah. Not far off, a low voice murmured in a language she didn't understand. Then something erased all other perceptions. It was the sound of Ben gurgling and cooing.
I like how it says in a language she didn't understand, as if there's more than one language she understands. Like, just say it wasn't English. Like, we know Holly only knows English, you know.
She's just trying to be artsy by trying to say it in a longer and different way. You know, authors, they are never straightforward with the way they write. You always have to be kind of elongated in your descriptions of things.
Flowery.
Yes. Frustrated, Holly tried to sit up and discovered that her hands and feet were tied. When she managed to open her eyes, moisture blurred her vision until she blinked twice to clear it. Her first impression was of a rustic cabin. She lay on a fold-out couch in an alcove, beyond which she could see a wood-paneled room with blinds on the windows. A table lamp was augmented by the flickering of an unseen fire. She inched along the mattress until a large stone fireplace came into view. On a small table nearby, a blanket had been spread. Atop it lay the tiny figure of Ben, his arms waving. One glimpse of the man towering over him made Holly go rigid. Although the beard and mustache were gone, the piercing gaze belonged unmistakably to the man who had attacked her in the churchyard. Instead of jeans, he wore a white headdress and robe that made him look utterly alien.
Ooh.
Wrong choice of words, Jacqueline.
Jackie.
Her first confused reaction was that a Sheikh had ridden out of some old movie. She knows. I wouldn't know what a Sheikh looks like off the top of my head.
She's read this book before. Holly's read this book.
Reality was much more terrifying. The man who had her and Ben at his mercy must be kind of delusional maniac. She prayed that he wouldn't notice she was awake. Surely she could find a way to untie her hands and rescue her nephew. Holly studied the cord binding her. There was no slack, and no apparent weakness in the rope either. Cautiously she twisted her wrists. The cord bit harder. Holly pressed her lips together to keep from crying out. Her captor paid her no attention, but he must be doing something that Ben didn't like, because the baby kept squealing.
Don't hurt him!
She called.
If you have to torture someone, do it to me.
The dark man looked up, and she noticed a white object in his hand. A diaper. For heaven's sakes! He was trying to change the baby!
Wow, wow.
If Holly hadn't been so frightened, she might have found his expression comical. It was the kind of befuddled expression Trevor had worn once when she thrust Ben into his arms so she could answer a phone call.
Men and babies, am I right?
It's not natural.
It's not natural for them to even touch them.
So, you are awake,
He said.
I'm sorry I was forced to drug you. Do you have any pain?
I'm just sleepy.
Her voice sounded hollow.
What time is it?
A little past 7.
Holly groaned. Her wedding was ruined. The guests, Trevor, Alice, what must they think?
Believe me, I have no intention of torturing anyone.
Her captor indicated her ties.
The sooner I can return you to your bridegroom, the better. But in the meantime, certain precautions were regrettably necessary.
Holly had to admit that. Clean-shaven, his face was handsome in a thoroughly masculine way, and his expression not unkind. But what about the outlandish costume?
Costume?
Outlandish!
Why are you wearing that?
She asked. She's just not culturally sensitive at all.
Nope. She's never left the
Someone grew up in a conservative
ambiguously
household.
Los Angeles area.
He smoothed down his robe.
I would not go outside dressed this way, not in your country. But I wanted my son to see me as I really am.
She didn't need to finish the question. Now when she finally realized why those penetrating eyes looked so familiar. They were Ben's. Ben's eyes. I'm not gonna edit that.
You're his father.
She whispered.
Oh, Lord.
Through the lingering effects of medication, her brain churned over this disturbing discovery. She'd found Jazz's secret lover, or rather, he'd found her and Ben.
What have you done with my sister?
The man returned his attention to the baby.
Nothing. I thought you were with her.
What?
Holly made the mistake of trying to push herself up. The cords tightened again, making her wince.
How could you?
I know her only from a photograph. It was arranged through a clinic. She did not tell you? He put one hand beneath the baby's backside and tried to raise his bottom while sliding the diaper beneath it. Free-spirited Jazz would never have agreed to bear the child for pay.
I don't believe you. Why would my sister want to be a surrogate mother?
I was told she wanted money to make a demonstration recording. He broke off as Ben kicked lustily, flinging one of his booties into a corner and dislodging the diaper from the man's grip.
You're doing that wrong.
Evidently.
Keeping laugh line. Keeping one hand on the baby, the man leaned back and squinted at the child.
It appears to be a problem of structural engineering.
You're an engineer?
Holly needed to make sense of this situation to learn anything she could.
I am many things, the man replied enigmatically. But I am not an abuser of women.
That's going on in the left field, kind of. You know.
He's not all men.
I will release you from your bonds if you will care for my son. As you have pointed out, I don't seem to be doing very well at it.
His accent sounded Middle Eastern.
Where are you from? We knew that she would ask.
Your sister told you nothing of me?
Wrapping the fussing baby in the blanket, he carried him along with the diaper to Holly.
Nothing at all. And believe me, I tried to find out who the father was.
She started to reach for Ben and stopped with a gasp. The man set the baby on the center of the bed.
My cousin Zahad must have tied the rope too tightly. He was in a hurry.
At close range, she could see small cuts on the man's neck from where shards of glass had hit him. Other than that, his skin had smooth olive cast, with some roughness where he had recently shaved. The man smelled of shampoo, and his thick hair, what she could see of it, was damp. So he must have showered since they arrived. How astute of her. What a dumb sentence. Yet there was an undercurrent of wild musk about him that no soap could wash away.
Oh.
From inside the robe flashed a knife. That's what she gasped at.
Oh.
Took us 3 paragraphs to get to what she gasped at. Holly scarcely had time to register the danger before the man sliced the cord between her wrists. Then the one at her ankles. The knife disappeared into the folds of cloth. Prickles of agonizing sensation shot through her hands and feet.
Your cousin. That would be the driver? Is he here?
He thought it best to stay in a different place.
The bed dipped as the man sat beside her. With a shiver, Holly saw the smoldering fire in his gaze as he watched her.
Although this canyon is remote, if he and I were seen together, it might draw suspicion.
I'm trying to say it like sexy because I really want them to have sex.
If we force it. You mean from the police?
Although her captor spoke calmly, she reminded herself that that law-abiding men didn't go around snatching brides and babies.
Yes, among others.
Before she could query further, the man said,
I don't think it is good for the boy to lie here in only his little shirt. Do you know how to put on a diaper?
I should hope so.
She flexed her stinging limbs.
But it might take me a minute to get full sensation back in my hands, thanks to your overeager cousin.
He takes pride in his thoroughness,
the man said.
He should take a little more pride in showing consideration for others.
She flared. Her captor smiled. Pure white teeth gleamed against his tanned skin.
You sound like my cousin Amy. She finds fault with Zahar too.
The prickly sensations eased. Skillfully, Holly caught the baby's ankles in her left hand, hoisted up his bottom, and slid the diaper into place. Ben chuckled and reached for her.
Amazing,
said the man in the Sheikh's robe. Just say the Sheikh at this point.
Yeah.
Just the Sheikh.
You do that with such ease, and he is clearly attached to you.
He knows I love him.
Holly cradled the baby in her arms. The man watched them, his expression unreadable.
I, too, love him.
How can you when you don't even know him?
And you think you do?
It's a baby. What is there to know?
The man unfolded himself in the bed and began to pace, his restless energy filling the room.
What do you know of this boy's history, or his heritage, or his future? To you, he's a tiny baby, but someday he will be a great man.
He'll be whatever he wants to be. You can't force a child to meet someone else's expectations.
Holly held Ben close. There no longer seemed to any point in safeguarding her wedding dress, which was thoroughly rumpled and flecked with blood from Sharif's injuries.
Your sister understood my son's importance, according to the clinic's director,
said her companion.
The clinic?
She repeated.
This is so unlike Jazz.
Jazz?
My sister. It's short for Hannah Jasmine.
Is that even in the cast list? I don't think
so.
It's described as Hannah Jasmine.
No, it just says Jasmine Jazz Rivers.
She said,
We've called her that since she was a kid. She hated going to the doctor, and she wasn't even close to what you might call maternal.
Outside, something thwacked against a window. Holly's heart skittered into her throat. Moving quickly and silently, her captor switched off the lamp. As its circular glow faded, scarlet firelight crept eerily across the walls.
Lie down,
the man whispered as he edged toward the window. Holly obeyed, shielding Ben with her body. Had the people who had fired at their car found the cabin as well? Or could it be the police? The scraping noise returned, followed by a pattering on the roof. Her captor lifted a slat of blinds and peered into the night. Finally, he turned the lamp back on.
There's a branch of the wind. The rain was started, as you could hear. It should be quite a storm.
Holly swallowed her disappointment. She had hoped it was the police coming to rescue her and Ben. But at least it wasn't armed assailants either.
Who shot at us earlier?
She asked.
And who are you? I don't even know your name.
The man drew himself up proudly. Somehow his confident air made his robe and headdress appear less outlandish.
Get a new word.
Oh, man. In fact, Holly could have sworn they suited him better than the jeans and sweatshirt he'd worn that afternoon.
I am Sheikh Sharif Al-Khalil of Al-Qatar.
He delivered this bizarre information without a trace of self-consciousness.
Oh my god. As if he don't talk.
That is a small nation in South Central Arabia, in case you do not know. Although my son has been born in America, I have every right to take him home.
The word Sheikh in Arabia seemed like phrases from a fairy tale.
Who are you really?
Oh man, an eyebrow lifted and then he laughed.
You do not believe... Ah! You do not believe me? I am not surprised, but it is true.
He's even like,
oh man, this is hard
Look
to
at
believe.
Americans.
I know I'm a stereotype.
She tried a different tack.
Ben was born here. That makes him a U.S. citizen. You can't just whisk him off, not if his mother opposes it.
The man shrugged.
It seems that his mother has found better ways to occupy her time.
I'm his next closest relative.
And you would have married yourself a lawyer to defend your so-called rights.
He observed with a trace of sarcasm. I maybe
Just a
overdid
trace.
it.
Just a trace.
How very American of you.
Although the implication infuriated Holly, she wouldn't stoop to debate it.
What's between Trevor and me is none of your business. And even if you are a sheik and Ben really is your son, nothing gives you the right to hold me prisoner.
You chose to jump in the car with us. That was...
I leapt into the car.
Put the finger up. Excuse me.
That was your decision.
The man regarded her with what might have been sympathy or merely irony. I don't know what that means.
I'm afraid I cannot...
I don't think Jacqueline knows what that means either. I think she's like, irony might be the right word. I don't know.
Fix it later.
Or not. I'm just gonna keep writing. Gotta get this book done in a week. Gotta get it on the shelf.
Harlequin's been emailing me.
Since last week, you need to write a new book sometime in a week. Sure feels like it.
I'm afraid I cannot let you go yet, Miss Rivers, even though it was to be your wedding night. Perhaps I can make it up to you.
Her throat tightened. He regarded her with amusement.
I do not mean that literally, but it could be arranged.
He was a sheik, but more importantly, he was a leader from a foreign country. If he possessed diplomatic immunity, Holly thought in a burst of fear, he could do anything he wanted and get away with it. Woo! Chapter 2. Wow. What a roller coaster. It incorporated everything that I thought this book would be.
Just all in one tight little package. All in chapter 2.
Yeah, it's about, it incorporates all the race ideas that we very much predicted the Sheikh would embody. And there's the part where the Sheikh is wearing Western clothing, and Holly makes the comment that he looks unnatural wearing those compared to his robes, which really fits into the Oriental idea that our theme song's all about. Please comment on our theme song about how awesome that
Please
is.
compliment our theme song.
In which we define Orientalism. And it goes further than that as well with the musk of him, where
that could not be washed off.
Yeah.
Like, he smells like shampoo, but there's some musk under there.
Which fully fits into Orientalism with colonies in Africa, especially because they went France, Britain, and other places went to Africa, and one of the ways they thought they could make Africans more civilized, in quotation marks, is by cleaning them up because they're dirty.
Google old soap advertisements and you will be appalled.
And this is getting straight to that, to the point where the Sheik, you just can't wash it off. There's something foreign about him. It's animalistic. That can't be washed off.
Unlike Tever, who just...
Squishy.
It's just squishy. Squishy American.
So, this is really where we're diving head first into the...
Also, I don't like the ending part where he was...
very rapey.
Yeah, weird, that can be... I was like, I know it's supposed to be your wedding night, but, we could do something about that. And then she, gets scared. He's like, oh, that's not what I meant, but, that could be arranged.
And how she's I hope he doesn't do it, but he might have the power to.
I also just like how I'll untie you if you will take care of my baby, because I can't.
Yeah, that also showing this the one minority character in this entire book, and he's completely inept when it comes to taking care of this white baby.
Oh my god.
And
Yeah, the baby has its eyes,
yeah,
but that's it, apparently.
But can I also mention that on the cover, the Sheikh's skin color
they're
is about
all
as white as Holly's.
It's 3 white people on the cover.
And he looks very clean shaven.
Yeah, he just shaved.
Yeah, but she said there's it's still a little rough.
Yeah.
Because he's rough. Sexy.
Yeah.
Sexy.
Sex. None of it yet.
No, but
it's coming faster than the Duchess of Love, that's for sure.
No, because they're in the same position in Duchess of Love, Ethan's and Harry's
that's true,
one,
I guess.
in the second one, where it also got kind of rapey in chapter 2, but it didn't end up going anywhere.
That's true. Which is good. We're glad that the rapiness didn't go anywhere, but
yeah,
it didn't even lead to consensual anything.
It's
weird.
I just don't like the suspense these books try to make, because it's more frustrating than suspenseful, and maybe that's me actually buying into the suspense of it, because I'm getting frustrated by how they keep luring us in, and then no, you don't get it yet, and that's literally suspense. So yes, I am saying it's suspenseful.
Yeah, it's you're not supposed to read a chapter a week. You're supposed to burn through one of these books in one lonely night.
Or a day on the beach.
Or a plane ride.
Or
where else could you read a book?
When you're babysitting a child, or maybe when you're captured by a sheik. Maybe
at work.
Yeah, when you're at work, or when you're in water aerobics,
or at a park,
or with your lover in bed.
That's sad.
Maybe not.
I hope not.
Yeah, I hope that's not a situation. Anyways, there's our analysis of this book. Obviously, as you can see, this podcast is as long, if not longer, than our previous podcast.
So we lied to you.
Yeah, our podcasts are probably going to be this length. We might do excerpts from chapters in the future. We'll figure all that out.
Don't worry, your pretty little head's over it. We'll take care of all the logistics. You just sit back and enjoy listening to our soothing voices.
And if it turns out that it keeps the same length, you will take it, and you will be happy with the length of it, because that means there's more of us and you get to laugh more, okay? So I don't want to hear anything. I don't want to hear any I don't want to read anything. I don't want to see any thumbs down on our YouTube posts.
We'll track your IP address.
We'll track you down, and we will make sure that you never listen to our podcast again. We will make sure that you never laugh. You will never have the capability of laughing in the future.
We love you so much. Thank you for supporting our podcast. We'll see you next week. Same bat time, same bat channel.
As the sun on the sand. The kind of clean you like best next to those you love. That's because new Tide has extra cleaning power. With Tide, things always come out clean and fresh as a sea breeze. More than white, more than bright, really clean. Clean! The cleanest clean under the sun. What a wonderful sight when your wash is done. The
cleanest clean under the sun